Welcome to Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys. My name is Jessica, and I am a passionate seeker of history's hidden chapters, mysteries that linger in the shadows, and the inexplicable phenomena of the paranormal world. My fascination with the past, the enigmatic, and the otherworldly has led me on countless journeys through time and space, uncovering secrets long whispered in the corridors of the forgotten and the abandoned. In this captivating season, we take a departure from our usual expeditions across various haunted locales. Instead, we anchor our curiosity at one extraordinary site, the RMS Queen Mary. This legendary ocean liner, a behemoth of history and mystery, will be our sole focus, our solitary journey through the annals of time and the spectral realms. From the elegance of the Lady in White to the playful echoes of Little Jackie, from the heart-wrenching tales of wartime sacrifice to the eerie stillness of her abandoned decks. Every episode will unveil a chapter of the Queen Mary's storied past, intertwined with encounters that challenge the boundaries of our understanding. So, I invite you, my fellow aficionados of the arcane, to join me on this singular expedition aboard the RMS Queen Mary. History, mystery, and the paranormal converge in a tapestry of tales as deep and fathomless as the ocean herself. This is Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys. Let the voyage into the unknown commence. Welcome back to Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys. In today's episode, we step into a new era in the life of the RMS Queen Mary. After decades of navigating the high seas, our storied vessel finds a new purpose as a floating hotel and museum. This transformation marks a significant shift from a queen of the ocean to a stationary monument of maritime history, rich in stories and memories. Within the confines of this majestic hotel, echoes of a troubled past linger. Our focus turns to room B-474, a space enshrouded in tragedy and mystery. Here, the walls whisper tales of a family tragedy, a story that leaves a chilling imprint on the fabric of the ship. The unexplained occurrences and eerie sensations reported in this room paint a picture of unrest, where the line between the past and the present blurs. Join us as we explore the Queen Mary's new chapter as a floating hotel and delve into the haunting legacy of room B-474. What secrets are held within these walls? What stories of sorrow and despair continue to haunt this room, resonating through time? The end of an era. As the RMS Queen Mary embarked on her final voyage across the Atlantic, there was a palpable sense of finality that resonated from her bow to stern. This journey was unlike any of her previous crossings. It was a farewell to the open sea, a voyage that would transition her from a regal ocean liner to a dignified relic of maritime history. The Queen Mary, a symbol of engineering prowess and luxury, was to become a stationary testament to the golden age of transatlantic travel. Her arrival in Long Beach Harbor on December 9, 1967, was met with a bittersweet mixture of fanfare and seriousness. The city, aware of the treasure it had acquired, prepared to welcome the Queen Mary into its fold, not as a ship, but as a monument to a bygone era. The air was thick with nostalgia, as the ship, which had once carried celebrities, royalty, and soldiers alike, steamed towards her final mooring. The transformation of the Queen Mary into a hotel and museum was a meticulous endeavor. It required a careful balance between preserving her historic integrity and repurposing her grand spaces for new uses. The boiler and engine rooms, once the heart of the ship, were gutted to create room for exhibitions. Yet, throughout the conversion, care was taken to maintain the essence of what the Queen Mary represented. In her new role, the Queen Mary became a treasure trove of maritime history. Her decks and halls now echoing with the voices of tour guides and the footsteps of curious visitors. The staterooms, which had hosted luminaries and offered solace to war-weary soldiers, were now meticulously preserved accommodations for guests seeking a night's stay aboard a piece of history. Despite the cessation of her voyages, the Queen Mary did not succumb to silence. Instead, she continued to pulse with life, her presence in Long Beach a constant reminder of the past's splendor. The ship's story was kept alive through the efforts of those who curated her legacy, ensuring that each artifact and exhibit spoke of the times when she reigned supreme upon the waves. The Queen Mary's allure as a floating hotel was undeniable. Visitors could dine in the same rooms where Winston Churchill once strategized the Allied victory, sleep in cabins that had cradled countless dreams, and stroll along promenades that had witnessed the vast spectrum of human emotion. In her stationary state, the ship became a bridge across time, a place where history was not just remembered, but palpably felt. As the sun set on her days as a voyager of the seas, the RMS Queen Mary's spirit endured. She stood as a silent sentinel, her story etched not only in the annals of history, but in the memories of all who walked her decks. The Queen Mary, though moored, remained a vessel of dreams, her legacy as enduring as the ocean's tides. Transforming the legendary Queen Mary into a floating hotel and museum was a monumental task. Akin to bottling a tempestuous sea, the ship's metamorphosis was not just physical. It was a transmutation of spirit, turning a dynamic vessel into a stationary custodian of maritime lore. In Long Beach, the Queen Mary found her final harbor, and with it, a new lease on life that would extend her legacy into the future. The transformation began with respect for the ship's illustrious past. Workers tread lightly as they refitted her interiors, ensuring that the soul of the Queen Mary was preserved. Original Art Deco designs were restored to their formal glory. The staterooms were refurbished to offer modern comforts while retaining their historical ambiance. The ship's decks, once alive with the bustle of transatlantic travel, now invited guests to wander through time, each corner a living exhibit of the mid-20th century elegance. The Queen Mary's new incarnation brought her history to life in vivid detail. The Museum of the Sea, established in the gutted remnants of her engine rooms, was a tribute to the maritime era she had once dominated. Exhibits showcased the Queen Mary's wartime service, her technological innovations, and the cultural impact of her voyages. Visitors could immerse themselves in her story, from construction to retirement, a narrative entwined with the history of oceanic travel itself. As a hotel, the Queen Mary offered more than just a place to rest. She provided an experience steeped in the golden age of travel. Guests could choose from 347 original staterooms and suites, all exuding the elegance of the first-class accommodations of yore. The ship was no longer bound for distant shores, but she promised a journey of a different kind, a journey through history and luxury. The preservation of the Queen Mary was a testament to the fascination and affection that she inspired. Events and banquets were held in her grand saloons, echoing the celebrations of decades past. Weddings, conferences, and galas found a unique backdrop in her timeless elegance, and the ship thrived as a social hub, her ballrooms and dining halls resonating with new memories. Yet, the Queen Mary was more than a mere attraction. She was a touchstone for the collective memory. Veterans, former passengers, and ship enthusiasts visited her with reverence, each bringing their own memories to share. Their stories added to the Queen Mary's tapestry, weaving a rich narrative of personal and collective history. In her moorings, the Queen Mary stood as a bridge between the past and the present, a vessel that carried stories of triumph and tragedy, She was a living museum, a hotel that offered more than a night's stay. It offered a night in another era, and through it all, the ship remained alive with the memories of those she had carried, the lives she had touched, and the history she had made. The RMS Queen Mary, now moored in the quiet waters of Long Beach, is a sentinel of history. Her very existence a bridge spanning the chasm between yesterday and today. Her transformation into a hotel and museum was not the end but a rebirth, allowing her to continue to enchant those who step aboard her decks. As a floating hotel, she offers guests more than mere accommodation. She provides a portal to the past, an immersive experience into an era that otherwise exists only in pages of history books and the fading memories of a generation-long past. The Queen Mary's allure in her new role is multifaceted. As a museum, she is a curator of maritime heritage, her exhibits and preserved spaces offering insight into the life at sea during the golden age of ocean liners. The ship's walls are lined with stories of her service in peacetime and war, her grandeur, and the technological marvels she represented in her heyday. The preserved Queen's Salon, the ship's library, the bridge, and the opulent first-class staterooms all serve as tangible connections to the ship's storied past. As a hotel, the Queen Mary extends an invitation to step back in time. The original wood paneling, the Art Deco furnishings, and the echoes of 1930s elegance afford guests the rare opportunity to live amidst history. Each room, each corridor, holds whispers of the myriad stories of those who traveled before, echoes of laughter, whispers of intrigue, and the silent reverie of those reflecting on the journey ahead. The Queen Mary's continued existence as a stationary vessel has not diminished her spirit. On the contrary, it has been invigorated by the myriad visitors who come seeking the romance of the sea. Her decks, no longer braving the Atlantic swells, are vibrant with the footsteps of tourists, the quiet conversations of history buffs, and the laughter of children discovering the magic of a bygone age. Special events from Halloween Fright Nights to elegant New Year celebrations keep her cultural heartbeat strong. Moreover, the Queen Mary has also embraced the digital age. Her history and mysteries now shared across the internet, connecting with a global audience that may never set foot on her decks. Her story is one of endurance and adaptability, as relevant today as it was when her keel first cut through the ocean waves. In her silence, there is a presence, a dignity that only a vessel of her heritage could command. The Queen Mary is more than a ship. She is a legacy, a living repository of the human experience at sea. She continues to capture the imagination, to inspire awe, and to remind us of the inexorable passage of time. The Queen Mary's spirit remains unsinkable, her story unending, her presence a testament to the time when she ruled the waves, a time that continues to live on through her. Room B-474 on the RMS Queen Mary holds a dark imprint on the ship's tapestry of tales, a stain that time has not washed away. The room, nestled within the floating hotel's labyrinthine interior, was the stage for a family final tragic act. The story that haunts these quarters is that of a gruesome murder. A father's mind, seized by unknown demons, led him to strangle his wife and 2 younger daughters before turning a gun on his eldest, Dana. The grim narrative begins with a family boarding the Queen Mary, unaware that their journey would end in room B-474. The ship, which had carried countless souls safely across the sea, could not protect them from the malevolence that unfolded within its steel embrace. As night fell, a silence settled over the room, a silence that would soon be broken by an unfathomable violence that left an indelible mark on the Queen Mary's history. The next morning, the ship awoke to a tragedy. The bodies were discovered, the crime scene speaking of unspeakable horror. The father was nowhere to be found, having seemingly vanished, leaving behind only the lifeless forms of his family and a room that would forever hold the echoes of their demise. The investigation that followed was as muddled as the motives behind the killings. No clear explanation was ever uncovered. The father's fate remained as much of a mystery as the reason for his actions. The ship, already a keeper of countless stories, had a new, dark chapter added to its annals. In the years that followed, the story of the family's end has been retold countless times, each retelling adding a layer of spectral folklore to room B-474. The ship's staff and visitors have reported strange occurrences, unexplained noises, and eerie sensations when near the room, as if the very air around it is charged with the residual energy of that fateful night. The most poignant of these paranormal experiences is the presence of Dana, the eldest daughter. It is said that her spirit remains aboard the Queen Mary, a restless echo of a life cut tragically short. Guests and crew have reported glimpses of a young woman, her visage marked by a timeless sorrow, wandering the ship's corridors or heard calling out for her mother, a voice from beyond seeking comfort or perhaps justice. Room B-474 and the family tragedy that unfolded within have become a part of the Queen Mary's lore, a haunting reminder of the ship's darker passages. It is a tale that binds the Queen Mary to the realm of the supernatural, a story that blurs the lines between history and myth. This family's fate, etched into the very fabric of the ship, serves as a somber testament to the Queen Mary's continuing saga, a saga where the whispers of the past are as much a reality as the steel and wood that house them. This family's fate, etched into the very fabric of the ship, serves as a somber testament to the Queen Mary's continuing saga, a saga where the whispers of the past are as much of a reality as the steel and wood that house them. The Queen Mary's corridors are a web of history, each passageway holding its own secrets, but none quite as poignant as the story that clings to the walls of room B-474. Here, the spirit of Dana, the eldest daughter of the slain family, is said to linger, her presence a palpable reminder of the tragedy that befell her. Visitors report encounters with an apparition, a spectral figure embodying both the innocence of youth and the depth of a sorrow that transcends time. Dana's ghost is not one of malevolence, but of melancholy. Guests have recounted sightings of a young girl in 1930s attire, her eyes brimming with the weight of her untimely demise. She is seen in the fleeting glances, a wistful presence that drifts through the Queen Mary's now hotel rooms and grand halls. Some have heard the soft echo of her voice, a plaintive call for her mother, a sound that turns laughter into silence and sends shivers down the spine. The stories of Dana's ghost are as much a part of the Queen Mary's fabric as the wooden decks beneath the guests' feet. These accounts are whispered from one visitor to the next, each retelling adding to the legend. Paranormal enthusiasts flock to room B-474, drawn by the magnetism of her story, hoping to catch a glimpse or hear the whisper of the girl who is forever etched into the ship's history. The staff of the Queen Mary treat Dana's memory with reverence. They speak of her with a mixture of familiarity and respect, acknowledging her as an unseen yet recognized occupant of the ship. Her presence is so intertwined with the Queen Mary that to walk her decks is to walk alongside Dana, to share in the eternal moment of her ghostly existence. The impact of Dana's story is tangible, affecting even the most skeptical of visitors. It challenges the boundaries of belief, inviting guests to consider the possibility of life beyond the veil. The haunting of Dana brings a human element to the supernatural. Her story, a tragic footnote in the Queen Mary's extensive log. As night falls on the ship, the atmosphere thickens, and the line between the living and the dead seems to blur. It is then that Dana's presence is most acutely felt. Some visitors leave with tales of encounters, of moments when the past seemed to reach out and touch the present. These experiences leave an indelible mark, a sense of connection to the ship and her spectral inhabitant. The Queen Mary, in her enduring grandeur, remains a custodian of stories. Dana's haunting is but one thread in the complex tapestry of the ship's history. Her glimpses are a window into the Queen Mary's soul, a soul that refuses to be silenced by time. The echoes of Dana's fate resonate through the ship, a haunting melody that plays on the strings of the imagination, keeping the memory of room B-474's tragic past forever alive. The hauntings of the RMS Queen Mary are not merely tales to be told in hushed tones as the night deepens. They are a cycle, a chorus repeated with each new audience that graces her aged decks. Room B-474 stands as a dark beacon among these stories. Its history, a chilling lullaby that lures the curious and the brave. The tragedy of Dana and her family, though decades old, is retold nightly, a macabre Groundhog Day that sees no end. The narrative of Dana's ghost is a testament to the Queen Mary's uncanny ability to ensnare the present in the web of its past. The ship, a repository of human history, has become a stage where the lines of history and myth blur. Guests seeking the thrill of the paranormal roam her corridors, their footsteps a percussion that awakens the echoes of yesteryears. Room B-474, with its legacy of murder and mystery, is a chapter that refuses to close, its pages forever turning in the draft of whispered conversations and wide-eyed recountings. The phenomenon of Dana's haunting suggests a deeper human connection to the stories we share. Each retelling breathes new life into the lore. Each encounter adds a layer to the legend. It is as though the Queen Mary herself commands these stories to rise, to repeat, ensuring her place not just in maritime history, but in the annals of the supernatural. The cycle of storytelling is self-sustaining, fueled by an intrinsic fascination with the unknown and the allure of a good ghost story. In room B-474, the past is not past. It is a living, breathing entity. The collective fascination with Dana's spirit is a mirror reflecting our desire to touch the ethereal, to feel the pulse of the otherworldly. The tales spun within the confines of the Queen Mary are more than entertainment. They are a ritual, a communal dance with a spectral that reaffirms the ship's perpetual life. The Queen Mary's role as a floating hotel has allowed these stories to flourish, providing a venue where history and hauntings are inextricably linked. The ship's continued popularity as a paranormal hotspot ensures that the tragedy of room B-474 is not relegated to the silence of forgotten history, but is instead a living narrative, passed from one generation to the next. As the Queen Mary faces the future, the stories of room B-474 and Dana's ghost remain a constant. They are a cycle of history repeating, a reminder that some stories, like the ship herself, are timeless. With each new guest that lies awake in the stillness of the night, straining to hear the faint echo of a girl's voice or the whisper of a long-lost family, the legend of room B-474 endures. It is this repeating history, this constant renewal of the Queen Mary's haunted lore, that ensures that the ship will continue to captivate the minds and hearts of those who have come aboard, searching for a brush with the past that is very much alive. Our journey through the transformed hulls of the Queen Mary and the haunting saga of room B-474 has taken us through layers of history, painted with both grandeur and sorrow. The ship, now a silent witness to its own past, continues to be a repository of untold stories and spectral encounters. As we leave behind the haunting aura of room B-474, our voyage aboard the Queen Mary approaches yet another intriguing chapter. In our next episode of Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys, we will revisit the ship's final voyage before becoming permanently docked. Alongside this poignant journey, we will uncover the story of the spectral, tall man seen in 1930s attire, wandering the first-class suites. Who is this tall man, and why does he walk the ship's elegant corridors? What stories from the Queen Mary's final days at sea linger in the shadows? Join us next time as we continue to explore the rich tapestry of history and hauntings that envelop the RMS Queen Mary.